Welcome to Music, Mind, and Well-being. It is so good to have you listening to the show today. And we have a real treat because, as you know, we talk all things mental health as well as cognition and just all the processes of the mind. And we have a mental performance coach and speaker. She is amazing and she goes by the affectionate name of Jiggy. But Jiggy, if you want to just like introduce yourself just a little bit to the listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jiggy. The real government name is Na Eun Yoon. I was born in Korea, built in Queens, and now doing the damn thing in LA. That's what I always say. I am a Eric Thomas certified speaker, as well as just like Anne said, I'm an emotional intelligence based mental performance coach.
Oh yeah, I just love hearing you say it. That's why I had to do it. So really, what does a mental performance coach do?
Yeah, I like to emphasize that I personally am based off of emotional intelligence as well, because a lot of the ways that I coach my clients is a lot of inner work, a lot of self awareness, a lot of raising emotional intelligence. And so it's not just mentality and mindset and coming up with strategies and those things. I like to dig a little bit deeper into the root causes of their habits that might be deteriorating them from their performance and their peak performance. I'm obviously not a licensed therapist, so I make that super, super clear. And so when we do assessment calls, I'm able to just kind of get to know the potential client and see if we're a good fit or not. And so when we're able to work together, I work with athletes as well as professionals in the tech industry. And so the common theme there is that they're both high performing human beings. And
Mm,
so it's not just about titles. It's not just about what does the person do for a living, because at the end of the day, nervous systems are all the same. We all have brains.
absolutely.
We all have emotions. And
Mm,
so at the end of the day, even if it's just athletes, we actually rarely ever talk about the sport itself versus the experience of nerves, the experience of negative self-talk and things like that. So it's a lot of emotional intelligence based, as well as self-awareness and coming up with a strategy that helps the individual.
absolutely, because we've done so much work as in here at Music Mind and Wellbeing, where we're looking at exactly that. We go to the core, the root, and find out what is the problem. Why are you thinking the way you are thinking? And then we're changing those processes. So you say with high performing athletes. So were you once an athlete, or are you doing sports now? How does that all relate? How does that all tie together?
Yeah, so as far as the athletic part goes, I've been an athlete all of my life. I've done a lot of different sports as well, competitively too,
Mhm.
just a variety of things. But to be honest, when I became a coach, I never really intended to work with athletes. It's just that once I got a lot more familiar with the community of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, which is all like mixed martial arts, basically. I just started to make friends with the people around me, and they
Mhm.
heard what I do, and they kind of reached out to see if how I could help. And it turned out that I could help them in a way that maybe another athlete couldn't,
Right.
because I think that I do a good job helping them see the big picture of life itself,
Right.
bigger than just a sport, right? So when a champion, obviously their entire life is surrounded by that sport. But at the
Mm.
same time, I help the individual understand your purpose is more than that. It's bigger than that. And so let's paint the picture of what that could look like. So yeah, and my own girlfriend too, my partner, she's a competitive athlete, a professional fighter as well.
Mhm.
So at this point, I don't know how I came to this point in life where all of a sudden I'm surrounded by professional fighters, but I am, and I'm actually really thoroughly enjoying it.
So, what was a major marker that you pushed somebody through? Help them get over that barrier that they couldn't break through, and then you got them there, and it was like that aha moment for them.
I think with athletes, we've been having a lot of aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
But one that comes to mind is what they've gone through in 2020.
Right.
So my clients are competitive athletes. I also work with people who are champions. And so their entire life is based off of this one sport. And so when 2020 hit, and not even just training, they couldn't even compete. They couldn't compete and they couldn't train anymore. They couldn't even enter the facility anymore. They couldn't even be surrounded by their friends that they see every day anymore. And so a lot of the questions became, what is my purpose in life? And what am I
Mm-hmm.
actually capable of? And why am I so obsessed with this sport? And XYZ kind of self-reflection questions. And so people just kind of started to come to me to basically ask, Jiggy, can you help me think this through? Think my life through, basically.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the biggest lessons of 2020 for anybody, it's not just athletes, but anybody, is that we cannot depend on something external to ourselves to define what our purpose and identity is in life. Because if we do that, we will always lose. We cannot look at a trophy, a medal, a promotion, how much we get paid for that to reflect our true identity and purpose in life. And 2020 really showed that your will truly comes from the inside. Your
But
will to live, your will to perform, your will to succeed, it all comes from the inside. And the reason as to why that is the way it is also really important. And
mm,
so especially in the sport of the art of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you know, a lot of people work really hard to compete and win medals, but we all work really hard to climb the ranks. So to
mm,
get belt promotions, right? And so there are a lot of athletes who wanted to get promoted in 2020. They were definitely on their way to get promoted in 2020.
right.
Unfortunately, they couldn't. So now it's a matter of, what am I supposed to do with my life without doing this thing? Who
Mm,
am I? Because I worked so hard and all of a sudden it's kind of been taken away from me.
mm,
And so it's kind of like redefining what actually is success for you. And
mm,
so throughout 2020 and in 2021 again, gyms are only just really starting to open up. But it's just really going into competitions now and going back to training now, saying, why am I actually really doing this? And what actually really brings me pride and satisfaction? Again, it's not more so about anything that's external. You can be proud to receive a medal for sure. Absolutely. You can work really hard for something. And, you know, affirmation, all of those things are a part of Maslow's hierarchy. Of course,
absolutely.
we want to be acknowledged for the hard work that we put in. However, we cannot be so desperately depending on everything that's external to bring us that gratification.
Absolutely, because one of the things that I'm seeing here is that Fibonacci experience where getting from 0 to 1 and then it's accelerating from there. So are they doing catch up? Are some of them still like thinking, okay, so 2020 didn't happen. Let me just park that. And now that the gyms are opening or their clubs are opening, and it's like, shall I do catch up? But is that the right mentality?
My clients don't have the mentality of catching up.
Yeah,
The shift that they're experiencing right now is being at peace for what is now.
good.
And I don't think anybody really feels okay. Initially, they did feel, you know, FOMO, fear of missing out, and they
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
as
yeah.
though because they couldn't compete and things like that. But as they are going back to things now, because of the work that we were able to do in 2020, we
Mm,
are focused on peace right now. And actually, some of the athletes have decided to not compete at all for the rest of this year when they can. They
mhm.
absolutely can do it now, but they decided not to because 2020 helped them realize, like, you know what? Above being an athlete, I'm a human being and I need to get to know myself a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And if they have any opportunity to do that, it's right now. So yeah, a lot of my athletes are actually going through transformation period of understanding what peace looks like for them in their lives.
That's a beautiful thing. We all need
Mm-hmm.
peace. And if more of us had peace, everybody would be in a state where they're operating at their absolute best self. Now you have a saying that is vulnerability is dope. Come on, what's that all about?
Vulnerability is dope. How that all started. there's no really deep story behind it. It's just that I think all of my life I have been told that emotions are for the weak, and don't ever speak up, don't ever express yourself. If you have opinions, you're not even allowed to have an opinion, but if you do have opinions, keep it to yourself. It doesn't matter, keep your mouth shut, you're a little girl, what do you know? So throughout life I was just never really I didn't know how to navigate my emotions. I didn't know how to experience my emotions. So any emotion that I really did have was anger, because I didn't know how else to experience and express my emotions. And so I was known as that kid who was just always angry and always grumpy. But how can you blame me? I never felt seen. I never felt heard. No one ever really held space for me to like maybe explain why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. I didn't feel like I belonged in my own family. I always felt like a black sheep in the family. A sense of belonging is another Maslow's hierarchy. So throughout life, I just didn't know how to express myself. And once I entered college, I took a gen ed class that one of the homeworks was to study Brene Brown. And so it became a project to study Brene Brown. That was when her TED Talk by then was out, but she wasn't popular then. So just kind of watching her YouTube videos and learning what this word vulnerability means, what speaking your truth means. Yes. And that class actually helped me raise a lot of my self-awareness, to meditate, to journal, to ask myself really effective self-reflection questions, to really get to the core of all of the emotions and experiences that I was feeling. And so from then on, with that class changed my life, and it helped me become who I am now. And once I started to speak, I noticed that I just say it a lot. Vulnerability is dope. Don't listen. It's a lie. Like, society has been lying to us all along that emotions are weakness and that you're not allowed to express it. Like, vulnerability is dope, because in order for you to be able to speak your truth, in order for you to be self-aware and emotionally intelligent, which are all words that are used for strong leadership, actually. Hello. So none of that truth can come out without vulnerability. And a lot of that vulnerability for a lot of us may include digging back into the childhood memories that might hurt a little bit, but that's where healing comes. There's no healing without vulnerability. And I think that I use the word dope just because I have a really heavy hip hop background. And so the word dope is just kind of like attached to my tongue. So that's how just vulnerability as dope came about.
That's such an amazing thing, because so many people would say, okay, Shakila's actually said, yeah, transparency is dope. It doesn't seem to have the same weight as vulnerability is dope.